Well, holy crap, guys, they've finally done it. They've given me some news today, and I'm ready to talk about it all. So I do want to go ahead and really just dig into things. We're going to talk just for a second about James Earl Jones passing because it just needs to be mentioned. The dude was a landmark in Hollywood. Also, we've got some news about the new HBO television show that is intriguing. Also, Spider-Man 4 has found its director, and a trailer has dropped for the Trump movie, which I am sure is going to be quite divisive. So let's go ahead and talk about this stuff. As always, give us that subscribe, like, give us some comments, let us know what you think about what we've talked about here today, and as usual, make sure to visit criticalist.com, and you can download us in app stores as well for Android or Apple. We're an entertainment reviewing platform where you can go and just make some friends and talk about all the stuff you've been watching lately. So first, like I said, I did want to mention very quickly James Earl Jones. He did pass away yesterday. This is just, it's really sad news. But he was 93 years old. This dude lived a full life and did some amazing things. So it doesn't seem like they really gave a whole lot of reasoning behind it with his age and stuff. That's not super surprising. But if you're not familiar with James Earl Jones, you probably are. You just don't know that you are. He was known for Star Wars, Field of Dreams, Lion King, many other very iconic films. And in this article, I even learned that he got a start with Stanley Kubrick's film, Dr. Strangelove, which I had no idea about, but this guy's been around forever. He's done great things, and he will be missed, and I just hate to see that he passed. I was on a live stream last night, and we got the news while we were streaming, and that was a little bit of a bummer. But much love to James Earl Jones. You will be missed, dude, and you were a huge centerpiece for the industry. So on to this Harry Potter news. I am scratching my head a little bit on this. It could go multiple directions. Now, when we found out that there was going to be a remake for Harry Potter, but not just like a film remake, this is going to be a more robust television show remake, which I think a lot of people are fairly happy with. The fact that that could be a promising idea, at least, because if you're a book fan, which I am, and especially was when I was younger, I haven't read them in years, but as these were coming out, I'm at the prime age. I was like Harry Potter's age and followed on up with them as these books were coming out. I read them every single year when they dropped and was just all about these books. I love them and honestly wasn't crazy about the movies back in the day, but as I've gotten older and become an adult, I have started to actually love them because I've been able to separate myself from the books. That is the big thing, is if you're a Harry Potter book fan, there is a lot missing from the original movie series. They left out a lot. The books are just a whole lot more robust. And honestly, I mean, that's just kind of par for the course when you are doing adaptations like this, especially for a book series that has fairly large books, and there's 7 of them. So at least they split the last film into 2, which was a good sign for many of us. But this is opening it up to make the world more robust, to give us more with the Harry Potter story that was left out in these original films. But of course, the biggest concern is the same thing that everybody always worries about with current Hollywood, which is the number one narrative that they give, which is that they are making everything for modern audiences, whatever that is, because it seems that whenever they cater to modern audiences, it tanks and people don't like it. And the modern audiences that they claim are going to show up for the film or TV show or whatever it is, don't show up because it's just kind of this pandering trash where agenda is put forward before actual quality. Now, we got some news fairly recently that I covered where they gave us, we found out that there are showrunners and people finally becoming attached to the show when they're making it. And basically, it's the team, the writing team and showrunners from Succession, which HBO has already worked with and have done great work in the past. Now, that does not guarantee that this will be a banger, but it at least shows that they are wanting to have the right people involved with this. And we know that J.K. Rowling at least is standing strong and staying attached to her products and this series and franchise, which is a good sign considering all of the hate that she gets. And this is her baby, and I think she should be attached to it. Now, with this new news is that basically HBO's Harry Potter series begins a diverse casting call for the main trio. Now, basically, I'll go ahead and read it, but the casting call has happened within UK and Ireland, which makes sense. Now, granted, with American things, they typically will cast anywhere and we'll just get other people with American accents. But with something like this, it makes sense that they would try and get, some English folks for it. But they say the open casting call is looking for children who are residents of UK and Ireland. The announcement also seemingly revealed the project's current production start date, as one of the casting call's requirements is that the actors must be around the age of 9 to 11 in April of 2025. So it means that they're thinking forward and they're trying to get the ages right for when this starts, which also means that they should be pretty consistently chugging along with the production of the show and not end up with big gaps where it takes a long time to make it, because these kids will age out very quickly. And it says that choosing young actors will officially be succeeding Daniel Radcliffe, Emma Watson, and Rupert Grant, who were also cast at a very young age to star in the blockbuster franchise. Now, what it has here in quotation marks is, "We are committed to inclusive, diverse casting," the casting call stated. "For every role, please submit qualified performers without regard to ethnicity, sex, disability, race, sexual orientation, gender identity, or any other basis protected by law unless otherwise specifically indicated." Now, this could be multiple things. If you know anything about Hollywood, you know, though, that when casting calls happen, regularly they do say, we want a male of this age with this look. We want a female of this age with this look. And it really breaks down specific characteristics for what they are looking for. Now, we have seen less and less of this as Hollywood goes on because of the DEI and diversity requirements. And sometimes it works fine, sometimes it doesn't. And I am not one of these people that's hard and fast all the time, 100%, we can never race swap, we can never gender swap. But the thing is honestly, more so for the gender swapping than the race swapping. Gender swapping can get real hairy when you do that with some of these properties, for sure. But as far as with race swapping, it really kind of depends for me on if it is surrounding, if it's tethered to the characters, plots and points and traits and things, as if that plays a role, but it doesn't always matter. Now, granted, another thing, and has been the ongoing joke about this show, is we can't wait for the for the Weasleys to be completely cast as some other race because of Hollywood's ginger genocide. Because Hollywood, it seems to hate gingers, and they are trying to get rid of them as fast as humanly possible. If you're a redhead and an existing long-term character, you can bet that Hollywood is going to do a recasting and make them some level of person of color. So everybody's still, now that this article has come out and they've said, we're not being picky about any requirements, we aren't holding it, any tether to the originals as far as how these characters look and the vibe of them and whatnot. It does make you kind of scratch your chin a little bit and wonder, is this going to be a DEI nightmare? Because if you're a fan of something like the new Lord of the Rings show or the Wheel of Time, I have had a huge issue with the Wheel of Time because it is one of the most diverse, just wide-ranging series. There's 15 books. I've read them all, and the cast is extraordinarily diverse for these books. And then when they made the show, they went in and recast everybody as different races, especially the redheaded character in the series, and no surprise there. And they just did a bunch of race swapping that actually affected the overall story, which was my biggest issue, because there were certain things involving race and involving the demographics and the places and areas of the world that people came from. All of it was there were race elements surrounding this and how people looked and behaved, and they got rid of all of it for the series, and it actually did affect it. Now, in something like this, it's not going to affect it as much if you're familiar with the Harry Potter series. But the question just is this kind of playing their hand early on? Is this them saying that they're going to go full DEI with Harry Potter? Or is this just them covering their bases so that they can say, hey, we opened it up to everybody, but at the end of the day, we cast the best people for the role, and that's what happened. And there is a strong chance that that's what they're doing, and I would argue that that could be a very smart approach, because if these characters do end up looking and feeling exactly like the originals and how they were written in the books, that's fine and great. And honestly, I think that that's probably what will play best for the people that are watching this and involved, at least for your core characters. Now, going outward, I don't know that it's as big of a deal, but we'll see. And I am curious to to see where this is going to land, because this could be, just like I said, them covering their bases, or this could also be them playing their hand a little early as far as how this series is going to go. But I'm going to hold out hope that this is going to be very good. I'm excited for it. I really want it to succeed, and I would love for it to cover more of the books and for this to be something that I can watch for my kids, with my kids, when it comes out. So moving on, Spider-Man 4 has found a director. We have writers on it as well, but I did find this fairly interesting, and this movie has been kind of in the wings waiting. As we know, Marvel doesn't seem to really know what's going on, and they are kind of restructuring and cleaning house of late. At least that's what it feels like from the outside. And it would make sense for them to, because Marvel has been struggling, and I don't even think it's a question of if they have or not. They have, and so they really do need to get things right. And so they have found a director, and they have announced that it is Destin Daniel Cretton. Now, that name jumped out at me right away, and I was like, that feels really familiar. I've heard this name. They've been attached to something else, and sure enough, they have. So what Destin Daniel previously did was work on Shang-Chi. He was the director of Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. For Marvel Studios, this will be the fourth director to tackle Spider-Man's solo film. John Watts directed all 3 Spider-Man entries of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and he's actually doing the new film that's coming out with Brad Pitt and George Clooney, which is called Wolves. So I am interested to watch that, but buzz so far is not great. But anyways, as far as Destin Daniel coming on to this, I am actually fairly excited about this, but this is going to be contentious with a lot of people, because Shang-Chi and the Legend of Ten Rings was not universally loved. I personally am one of the people that actually liked this movie quite a lot and had a lot of fun with it. I liked the character and how they handled it. I thought it was just a really fun film. But when you go and look at reviews, whether it be on Criticalist or elsewhere, they are kind of scattered. And we see, like, my pal Al gave it an 85%, but then we have people down here like J.H. Wick who gave it a 15%. But if you look at a lot of the people that really skewer this movie, a lot of them, like J.H. Wick, were fans of the original and loved the character and how it was written and have read the comics. And that tends to be the case for a lot of these superhero films that don't do well, is if they don't tether it closely to the original source material. And I wasn't very familiar with Shang-Chi, and I've read tons of comics and have been a comic fan for years, but he was just not one of the characters that I read much, but I was kind of in my specific alleys. But Spider-Man is one of those characters that has always been one of my favorites. And if you've kept up with this series, then you know that where it has left off is kind of a potential restart for the character of sorts. And I think that this is a good place for them to be and to go more ground level with Spider-Man. And I'm interested to see what he does with this movie. I'm not upset with this news. And I think at least with him, we get a known quantity. We've seen him work within Marvel, and it's clear that they wanted to keep him around because he's on the books to write or to direct the next Shang-Chi movie, as well as he was supposed to do the Kang Dynasty film before that got canned and swapped out for Avengers Doomsday, now that we've got the Russo brothers back. So with this movie, they did announce that we have Chris McKenna and Eric Summers back, who wrote the original 3 films in the MCU. So this is fairly good news. These movies are loved for the most part, and I think that these guys writing it is a good sign, because it means that they will have a similar tone and feel to the others, at least, and these guys have a good pulse on the character and this version of the character. So I have hopes for this movie. I have hopes for Destin Daniel being attached to this, and I really hope that it is good. Fingers crossed, because I am a mega Spider-Man fan, and I want this to do well. I want more good Spider-Man, and honestly, as long as it's out of Sony's hands, then we're probably in good shape, because they clearly have no idea what to do with any of the Sony stuff that they, or the Spider-Man stuff that they own, because they're just messing up royally at this point. So on to the last piece of news I wanted to talk about, and I just kind of wanted to poll the audience here and see what people think, is that we have a trailer now for The Apprentice. I'm not going to actually play it on here, because I'm not really good at that sort of thing, with them popping me for playing, copyrighted material, so I'm not going to do it this time. But I'll put it in the show notes. Definitely go and watch this trailer. And I did see it. I've been watching the production of this film and interested in it, but with our current political climate, especially with where Trump sits with the media and with the entertainment industry at large, I just cannot see this movie handled well, or with any level of balance. And if it is, then color me shocked. I would honestly love for this to be a balanced and even story, just more historically accurate. And I'm curious to see where Trump stands with it. I'm sure that he will have an opinion and speak on it at some point. So I am interested in that. And what they've gotten is Sebastian Stan to play Trump. Now, this has been my biggest issue with the trailer when I watched it, was that watching him play Trump, and when they've shown some of the lines, Trump is a very obvious and public figure. We know exactly how he behaves, how he acts, his personality traits, all of that. We all know it all. There are so many people who can mimic and kind of play Trump. And the thing is in this trailer, I wasn't getting big Trump vibes. So that could be a huge issue for this movie, is if they just don't nail Trump. But the other big issue is that a lot of people really like Trump. And if this movie spends their entire runtime crapping on him, then it's probably not going to do that well. I was excited to see that Jeremy Strong is going to be in this. He was from Succession, and if you've seen him in that, it seems like a fairly similar role in this, but he's an excellent actor, and I really like Sebastian Stan as well. I think he can be really funny, and I hope that they can land on the Trump comedy, because if, regardless of how you feel about Trump, the dude is freaking hilarious, and you just can't help but laugh at him and or with him regularly, and he's usually in on the joke. So I'm curious to see if they can actually capture that in this movie, or if they're just going to spend the entire time crapping on him. But this trailer, they decided to drop it right here near the debate and all that, and it obviously felt at least a little bit politically motivated. But I am interested in this movie. I will probably watch it just out of curiosity, but this trailer didn't necessarily get me excited, but it does kind of have that cool indie film vibe, a lot of flair to it. And if they can walk that tightrope, which I don't have high hopes for, because it's Hollywood, and modern Hollywood is not, they're not intelligent writers. They do not know how to execute things very well of late, and are honestly fairly embarrassing when it comes to the writing department. So I'm not going to hold out hope, but I will probably see this. Definitely let me know down in the comments what you think about this, and if you're planning on watching it. And same for the Spider-Man news, and also with the Harry Potter stuff. I am curious to see if everybody thinks that they are, this is them playing their hand early and just being like, this is what kind of show this is going to be, or is this more of just them covering their bases and just saying that, like, hey, look, we cast what we cast, and we opened up to everybody. So this is just how it shook out. I am interested to see, and until tomorrow, hopefully we'll have more news. But make sure to, like I said, once again, subscribe, comment, all that stuff helps us a ton, and we will be back for the news again tomorrow. Take it easy, guys. Later.